The subtitle of my book, Food is Climate, is a response to Al Gore, Bill Gates, Paul Hawken, and the conventional narrative on climate change. So why don't these three leading spokesmen on climate ever acknowledge that animal agriculture is the leading cause of climate change? Why do they focus almost exclusively on fossil fuels? I've analyzed it, and here are the possibilities. Well, come on, they're not fools. These men are certainly not fools. In fact, I can say with great confidence, really with almost total certainty, that two of these guys are smarter than I am. And I know that you're all out there, you're all asking yourself the same question. How much smarter? Believe me, a lot smarter. Second possibility, they're corrupt. Yes, it's true that Al Gore has some cattle on his land, but I can guarantee you the man is a multimillionaire who couldn't care less about the comparative peanuts he must be earning from the few cattle on his land. Bill Gates is giving his money away because he's got more money than he could spend in 1,000 lifetimes. These men do not have a corrupt bias for their opinions on climate. And so the real reason is the third one. They're part of the same culture we are. And so when you're part of a culture that eats meat, you don't question whether or not we need the grazing land and how much carbon dioxide we might sequester if we restored forests. You don't question whether or not we need 25 billion farmed animals on the planet. Just as medical schools don't question whether it might make sense to teach nutrition because they assume that our culture will never change its dietary habits. Just as doctors don't ask their patients what they eat because they assume that Americans are meat eaters and can never change. Climate scientists don't challenge land use and the fact that we absurdly dedicate 43% of the non-ice land surface of the earth to the growing of animals for food. They don't question the destruction of the oceans. That's 70% of the planet, so that humans can get 3% of their food calories from fish. As long as you don't question these things, as long as they're givens, then of course you have no choice but to focus on fossil fuels. There's nothing else to talk about. How do we heal this planet? A doctor never dresses and bandages a wound and says, go home and scratch it every day. No, they say, leave it alone and it will heal. We are a self-healing mechanism. So is the earth. In order to heal the earth, we need to leave as much of it alone as we can. 70% of the earth is the oceans. We need to end industrial fishing. We also need to protect the oceans from plastic and other pollutants, but industrial fishing is what's harming the oceans far more than anything else. We begin by protecting the oceans. If we stop eating meat, and if we stop eating and exploiting animals, we could add 43% of the non-ice land surface of the earth that we can free up for rewilding. Enough carbon capture to return us to pre-industrial age levels of CO2 in the atmosphere. This is land that was once grazed in Scotland and then rewilded. Imagine if we allowed that to happen to 37% of the land on Earth that's grazed. It's easy to see why creating secondhand smoke is wrong. When you smoke, you make the air toxic for everybody in the room. The secondhand smoke can cause cancer. Eating meat makes this a secondhand planet. If you eat meat, you're heating, polluting, creating desert upon, and reducing biodiversity upon everybody's planet. Imagine if grizzly bears started walking upright all the time and started to use more and more sophisticated tools. Imagine if they started to chop down trees so they could easily eat the birds in their nests and eat their eggs. Imagine if, as a result of all the predator birds that they killed, the world started getting overrun with rodents. We'd get pretty angry at the grizzlies, wouldn't we? We'd say, hey, leave the forest alone. Stop chopping down the trees. Bears aren't supposed to be eating eagles and hawks. Let the eagles and the hawks have a place to live. You're screwing up the whole world for the rest of us. You're messing with the web of life. But we would be hypocrites, of course, because that is the message that all the other species on Earth would surely like to send to us humans. It's also the message that vegans would like to send to non-vegans. The truth is, the world isn't even big enough for one species that doesn't eat its natural diet. Humans have to return to our natural diet: fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, mushrooms, nuts, and seeds. Otherwise, we're destroying the planet for ourselves and for all other species on the planet. And so one diet, our natural human diet, protects against heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, cancer, inflammatory diseases, climate disaster, deforestation and desertification, water scarcity, biodiversity loss. Isn't that convenient? Isn't it convenient that by simply eating human food, by merely returning to the natural human diet, the foods we were designed by nature to eat, we can solve so many of our problems and have longer and healthier lives? All we need is a global transformation to a vegan diet. And all that's stopping us from this beautiful transformation is our own cultures. But wait a minute, aren't cultures a good thing? Of course, we can celebrate cultures, but we have agency. We can say yes to ahimsa, harmlessness, and no to baby tossing. We can say yes to flamenco music and no to bullfighting. We can say yes to fraternity and sorority gatherings and no to hazing. We can say, I love you, Mom and Dad, but you fed me the wrong food. We forgive you. You didn't know better, but we do now. I have no trouble at all forgiving my parents for this mistake. They didn't know. They were fed the wrong food by their parents. We need to break this cycle immediately if we're to survive on this planet. Let's face the reality. There is no place for this in civilized society. And there is no place for this. Or for this. For us as humans with the world at stake, the ultimate question is, can we grow up already?